My name is Prashant, and I'm a faculty and assistant director research at the Institute of Public Health. It's an honor and a privilege for me to introduce this year's annual day oration speaker. But before that, a very brief orientation and context to what is the IPH India Annual Day Oration and why we do it. So this day marks 17 years of the Institute of Public Health Bengaluru's journey in research and action, education, and outreach. So we are organized as a society. We were established as a society, mainly to try and do research that leads to public health action that can transform lives of people, that can take us further towards a more just and equitable society. The reason we do this oration is to provide a platform here to someone who has had a journey and from whose journey we can learn more about how to strengthen public health and how to bring about equitable change in the lives of fellow citizens. Typically, our orators have been scholars, they have been practitioners, they have been people whose wisdom through their practice could potentially inform and guide us, but could also sometimes provoke and challenge us towards thinking whether we are going in the right direction or not. So as with every year, we hope that this year's oration will also make us think critically and inform our practice as we move forward into the 18th year of the Institute of Public Health. The oration series was not always there. We started it in 2018. Our first orator was Dhananjay. Dhananjay was a lawyer and is on Constitution and Health. Our second orator was Ravi Narayan, who spoke on the community health paradigm and the kind of shift needed in thinking around community health. Our third orator was Geeta Sen, and she spoke on the issue of gender and health equity. And the last year, we were privileged to have Dr. C. Madegowda, who spoke on health of Adivasi populations. And we are very glad that for the annual day oration of 2022, we have with us Dr. Roopa Devadasan, who is among us here today. Roopa, like some of us, has been a doctor, but has not entirely been sincere to the doctoring that medical colleges teach us. So, as we will hopefully hear from her, her journey post medicine has been a very varied one. It has been an experiment of sorts. It has been spanning several different sectors. She spent a decade working with Adivasi communities in the Nilgiris, and she a lot of her experience in community health, public health, and education comes from her decades work with the Adivasi community in the Nilgiris. After that, she has been exploring the education sector. She has taught at Valley School. She has earlier founded a school called Shibumi, which pursued a model of education that could be better than the kind of mainstream education we had. And she has also been teaching and practicing yoga. And at present, Roopa is engaged with community health work among the Adivasi communities around Bannerghatta National Park. Having Roopa give this oration is also very special for IPH, not only because of her journey, but because she's also been instrumental in co-founding the institute along with Dr. Devadasan, who was there earlier with us today. She has also been a colleague and a mentor to many of us. Of course, over the last several years, most of you who have joined the institute may not have had the benefit of her company. So before I pass on the mic to Roopa, I want to also mention especially that Dr. Upendra Bhojani, our director, was supposed to be here today and was supposed to in person welcome Dr. Roopa. I convey his regrets that he has to be away due to a medical situation at home. And on his behalf, I convey warm greetings to all of you who have joined online, but also those of you who are here with us today. Thank you very much, and with no further delay, I pass on the floor to Dr. Roopa Devadasan. An applause perhaps.
reach the first slide? Yeah. May I say I'm very, very honored to be here in person. I know this is a celebration after 3 years of the pandemic, so it's doubly beautiful. I was greeted with song and dance, which was so amazing, because there's nothing like moving the body to music in the presence of people you love. And I'm very, very privileged. So to start, I asked, why are you asking me to do this oration? And I was told, ma'am, we haven't had a woman speaker. So under the dubious distinction of my XX chromosome, I am going to speak today as a woman who has worked in public health for almost 3 decades, right? So I would like to start by thanking my family, my parents, my father, who is 90 years today, and a painter who hails from what is now Pakistan, and my mother, who is no longer alive, but comes from a strong Iyengar tradition in Tamil Nadu. To add to this hodgepodge, my husband is, of course, from Kerala. So my children who, my long-suffering children who never knew quite when the next meal would come because we were all so busy, never knew whether it would be aloo paratha or appam and ishtu. Okay, so I realized when I did my MPH that my life had been a long journey in sociology, but I just never knew that. It prepared me for many things. All of 18, I left the urban confines of Bombay and joined Christian Medical College, Vellore. I have many things to thank Vellore for. The good, ethical, allopathic medical practice that was sort of instilled in me are because of teachers who were amazing. And they taught me so many things. How sitting by the patient is far more important than anything else you might do for the patient. There are many things that I learned, but the Community Health and Development Department, CHAD as it is called very fondly by all of us, taught me some extra stuff. I'll come to that a little later. But I also was privileged to have 89 other students studying with me, who are my classmates all over the world, who have done tremendous work in small areas of this country in mission hospitals, and who are big clinical professors, but never hesitate to pick up the phone when I say, look, Da, I don't know what to do with this patient, what needs to be done? And they will immediately advise, given my context, what needs to be done clinically for the patient. So I'm very grateful for my friends who studied with me in college. CHAD, my community health journey, began with Dr. Abraham Joseph drawing this triangle on the board. You see that triad there which says host, agent, and environment. This is the classical triad of epidemiology. And I thought to myself, oh, this is the first time we are going beyond the human body. This environment looked very interesting. Alongside that, there were 2 books, 2 very small books, but tremendously influential on my young mind. One was a book called Raku's Story, which traces a young child who had malnutrition and ultimately dies of diarrhea. The story and the learnings from that story are valid today. It's not dated at all, so it's worth looking at it. The second book that impressed me was something called The Pedagogy of the Oppressed by a Brazilian Portuguese gentleman, Paulo Freire. And somewhere my young mind in the 20s was trying to put all this into some kind of shape and form which would sort of guide me to my next steps in life. So I'm talking about the ages between 18 and 25, 26. The other thing that CMC did was provide me with my husband. He was my classmate, and we met, we married, and we thought we were going on a honeymoon. But CMC had prepared us for service. They said, go serve the poor. And so that's where we ended up. That was our honeymoon. Very long one, 10 years we did it. So what happened was the Adivasis in Gudulur, in the taluk of Gudulur, basically there was a couple there called Stan and Mari, very close friends. He's on the board of IPH. He and Mari were looking for help because they said, we don't know what to do, but people are just dying. You know, people are dying. So can we find? So there was a nurse who was training health workers. And then when they met us, they sort of fell upon us and said, please join. So we went, and that's really what the forests of Gudulur look like. Very similar to probably what BR Hills looks like. It's not any different, right? And we worked with the 5 tribes there. The Kurumbas, the Paniyas, the Katanaikas, right? There were 5 tribes, and one didn't know the language, one learned, every day was learning, right? Somewhere along this journey, we realized that there's nothing we could do directly ourselves. We would need people who would give this information, who would learn from us and teach the villagers as well. At the same time, through them, we would learn about the situation in the villages. So our health workers, that's our very first batch of health workers. Okay, there are 6 of them, and they were very shy, retiring women. The first, in fact, one of them never even looked outside the hut. You know, she just bent and said, "Nan Bhartini." That's all we heard. We didn't even know her face till she came for the training. And that's her. That's the 3rd woman from the left, Badchi. And these women taught me many things, but I'd like to tell a story of Badchis because it changed something inside me. We were going to Tepakad on one of our clinics. Tepakad was where there had been 3 maternal deaths in that year, and we were shocked because we came from CMC when 1 in 100,000 deaths was, you know, debated. And here 3 women had died, and nobody seemed to know about it. So Badchi took us, and she was taking us into the village, and then we got off the jeep. I shut the door. No, I walked ahead, and she shut the door behind me. The door didn't shut. So I sort of, I said, Badchi, enama? Kalila saapalingala ninga? Have you not eaten this morning? And she looked at me and she said, Madam, na 2 naala saapala. I have not eaten for 2 days. Okay. That is something that changes something inside you when you face it head on. Something changes drastically inside you. We trained over the next 5 years something between 50 and 70 people, men and women, mostly women. What you see on the left, 1989, are old pictures of health worker trainings in Gudulur. It would have been somewhere in the village or in the head office, somewhere it would be there. And we taught them simple things, diarrhea, ORS, fever, how do you treat? Those days we had no communication like you have today. No, you email and you just call and this thing. Rani and Abhay Bhang, who are doing similar work up in Maharashtra, we used to get news of them from newsletters and letters written in envelopes which we received. Okay, so I'm talking about those times. The picture on the right is something we have done this year with women in Anekal Taluk. So I'm working now for an organization called 1 Billion Littles Foundation, and we are training women on NCD to help us with the screening process and to reach care to the elderly in places which are where they find access difficult. So you can see the format of training has not changed. We are still on mats. We are still looking at flip charts. It's still one to a group of 15 people. This is what works, right? You can't beam information into people long distance. That's been my experience. The other thing that has not changed at all is the access to care is still difficult for large groups of people. Yeah, what you see on the left is Deva dispensing to Mulukurumba patients right, in 1988. And there are some, you can see me sitting in the corner there. This is how we started our journey in Gudlur. He would drive the jeep, I would be sitting by his side. And then for the first 2 years, we would immunize from the back of the jeep because many of the children weren't on the government registers at all. So we just did that. What I want to point out is the picture on the right, which has been taken in April 2022, which is on the outskirts of Bangalore. And this is my young colleague, Dr. Ankita, who is treating migrant labor from Bengal. So some things just don't seem to change at all. Okay. This journey of working with people taught me many things from the people themselves. What I learned from the tribals, and I love that prayer which we sang, because I could hear resonating what I saw in Gudlur for 10 years among the Adivasi people. There is a oneness with each other. There is a oneness with nature, which is so natural. It's not taught. It's not environmental education. It's the way they are. They live, they breathe, right? And when you are with them, you imbibe that. You learn that. It becomes a deep-seated part of you. You don't, it never leaves you. Let me put it that way, right? So during these 10 years, there were all these clinics going on. We worked with about 20,000 Adivasis. That was it. And we were strongly criticized for, why can you choose them? Why are you not working with Sri Lankans? What is it? But I think the core thinking of that was very interesting. It was Stan's. He said, this is a group of people that has been looked down upon for years and years. So they have very poor self-esteem. If they can do something for the public, right? And they can provide something, it's going to change the equation. And that's how Gudlur Adivasi Hospital was born, right? These girls, not the ones we trained, but there were another 6. They were also 6. They came in 10th standard, 11th standard, 12th standard pass. They run the hospital today. They're the senior nurses in Gudlur Adivasi Hospital. Okay, no BSc nursing, no MSc nursing. When new interns come from St. John's, they are the ones who say, take this instrument, do this, do that. So it's possible. Okay. We were privileged to have with us Dr. Nandakumar and Shaila, who are still in Gudlur, still based there. And they, with us, trained the first batch of nurses. And the hospital started with mattresses on the floor, which were provided by friends and family. And it was on the floor and it remained on the floor for a long time, not because they were poor, but because in their homes, that's how they slept. So Gudlur Adivasi Hospital for a long time catered to the needs of the people as they were comfortable. All the nurses spoke the tribal languages, right? And the other thing that stays with me as a story from there is we took once a patient who passed away with us in the hospital home. And the father of the child, he turned and he said, you know, Ma, we have always seen our patients being carried to the hospital, but it's the first time you have brought someone home. Another huge lesson. It's a huge lesson to understand that. What does it mean to be part of people when you're part of birth and death? Huge lessons. So, as Prashant said, it was a decade here in Gudlur, and we sort of plateaued after that, Deva and myself. And it seemed like when we went to government offices, they said, what is your degree? And we said MBBS. And they said, they sort of looked at us. So we thought maybe it's time to get some more letters after our name. And so we embarked on the MPH, okay? And we looked for an MPH which did not destroy what we had learned for 10 years. So we honed in on Antwerp, throwing out Johns Hopkins and other institutions because they had a similar model when they worked in Africa. And so there was a sort of resonance with that institution, with the senior people in that institution. And that God be thanked, has continued till today. If IPH is running today, it's because the Institute of the Institute in Antwerp has provided us with technical support and with financial support for years and years. It's amazing. Okay, so first he did the MPH and then I did the MPH. It's like how we are today. He came in the morning and I came in the afternoon. Our whole life has been like that in tandem. So when I did the MPH, I realized that for the first time I was meeting people from 28 different countries. Okay, and it was an eye-opener because these chaps were all doing the same work we were doing in Africa and Malaysia and Laos and you name it, South America. And so there was a vibe that immediately, because you're a field person and I'm a field person and we know what we're talking about. So there was no, we could clear a lot of stuff which was not necessary. We just went ahead and learned. We learned from each other. We learned from the professors. And yeah, it was a good experience. I also had a very strange life-changing experience during those years. And that pushed me to question the boundaries of what I saw as science and medicine, and made me reflect on some of the things I had seen in Gudlur. In Gudlur, they would call the spirits, the ancestral spirits, to heal the person who was ill. And I couldn't understand. I said, why are they not listening to us? I was all of 26 and full of my bright, this thing of, I know it all. And these people, why are they not listening? Why are they not taking the woman to hospital to deliver the baby? And well, it takes time for this to seep in, to try and understand why people do what they do. Very important. But this sea change made me question what is curing, what is healing, and what is it that we offer a patient who comes to us for care. And I went on a very different journey. So straight after my MPH, when everybody expected me to write papers and do research. And my husband also looked at me and he said, you're going to do this? I said, yes, I'm going to do this. I, for 3 years, started on a deep study of yoga and I learned Reiki. All my life, I had questioned, why is it that people go to homeopaths, go to Ayurvedic doctors? What is it that they have that we don't? Why can we not cross-refer? Because if it's easier for a patient to get homeopathic treatment, why are we not saying go there? Or why are they not saying go here? I realized after studying these two systems that there was a basic flaw in my thinking, which is we think that there is one map for the human body. There isn't. There are multiple maps for the human body. And to see through those maps and follow those maps, you have to learn the skills of the system, which is why the Nadi system requires years of understanding it, which is why Reiki demands a certain kind of practice, right? Now, allopathy teaches you one way, all these systems teach you another. Depending on where you're standing, you will call this alternative or that alternative. Okay, I will rest my case there. So now this thing had changed my life, because now I was not stuck in the doctor box anymore. And I was asking myself, with yoga being so holistic, it cured me of my own PCOD, and being such a powerful instrument, why are we not in community health and this thing in our country when this is an old thing of ours? Why are we going with the other model which says, don't drink, don't smoke, and so you won't get non-communicable diseases? Why are we not moving towards positive health? I also realized that these things have to be done quite young. You don't teach yoga to 60-year-olds. It's good to start young. It coincided with a time when my own children were just joining school. Okay. And I took a leap. It was a leap in faith. I joined as a voluntary yoga teacher in the children's school. And before I knew it, I had organically moved into being a full-time yoga teacher to being a middle school science teacher. And then I was a teacher. People ask me, Roopa, did you not miss being a doctor? Did you really give up medicine? And to them, I would like to show this picture. The picture on the left is fragmentation. And all ill health starts from fragmentation. So if you look at WHO's definition of perfect health, they talk about physical, mental, social, right? It is in fragmentation that ill health arises. So when you're a doctor or a healer, you're trying to put those things back in place. In education, what you're doing is the reverse. The child is born complete, right? And you can see those nurturing branches and veins and roots, which transmit something to that child and give a sense of connectivity to something much larger than themselves. As children grow, right, they lose those connections with the outside world and slowly start losing it with themselves. So for me, health and education are just two sides of the same coin. We're talking about the same thing. We're talking about wholeness and health. Question is, where are you working? Okay. So these are some of the things I learned as an educator. I've been a teacher, a school teacher for 15 years. And these are some of my sharings from that. The child is always learning. Our job is to keep that mind alive. The child never stops learning from the time it wakes up to the time it goes to sleep. Okay? The educator's job is to create conditions for learning to happen, not teach. We think we are teaching. Children don't learn because we teach. They learn anyway. Okay? So the job of the educator is to create conditions for this to happen. And the pictures you see on the right are the kind of things we did in the schools I worked in, right? We took them on long treks. We took them on trips to natural places. You know, they've seen the salties of Bhitarkanika. They have gone to Jaipur and seen the palace to understand history. We take them on trips. We take them traveling. We meet not always exciting creatures like the snake, but we have met creatures, all kinds of creatures, because we go on the train, right? And we deal with life. Children learn about life not when they sit in the four walls of a classroom. They don't. Okay. The fourth one, a sense of wholeness comes from connection. And it is in the moment of connection when learning and healing both happen. If you have ever experienced this as a patient or a doctor, you will know that there is a moment, one moment when you know, it's going to get better. It's going to improve, right? The same thing with a child. If you've been one-on-one with a child, you will see there's a moment when you and the child are seeing something together. And that's the aha moment. Because you as a teacher see, she's seen it or he's seen it. And they're like amazed. There's a look that comes. I cannot describe it any other way. There's a bright look that comes in their eyes when that happens. Yeah. We learn as much from students as they learn from us. And if this is not happening, one should be asking what one is doing in the teaching profession or in the training profession. Because if there is no consciousness of what is happening in the child and you simultaneously, then you shouldn't be in the teaching profession. Sorry, I'm saying this very bluntly, but it's very important. Yeah. Right. So this was one part of the journey. And let's look at the next one. Simultaneously, this wasn't in tandem, this was simultaneous. Deva started IPH. So we had on one side, this institution, which we are celebrating today, which began as a dream in a flat in Delhi, saying, Roopa, should we really do this? And I said, of course we'll do it. Why should we not do it? Right? It's the need of the hour. We want young people to engage in this, right? And so I see IPH as those four prongs. There's research, there's grassroots level work, there's teaching, and there's policy. And depending on how you want, what fits in your life, what kind of a person you are, you can do wonders in any of these. What you need to know is that they're all connected. And sometimes you'll be working in one part and you won't see the other and you will think, what on earth am I doing? Nothing is happening. But when you work well and with vigor and passion, things happen anyway. This I can tell you. So this was happening on one side, and I thought to myself, oh gosh, I've done public health, I should be doing something as well. And that's the project that Amrita talked about. She's there in the photograph actually, in KG Halli. We embarked on this sort of project. It was an action research, and to see what would happen if we tried to bring private practitioners and the government on the same page and help them to interact with the community. As outcomes, it was a complete failure, let me tell you. But as learnings, it was tremendous. All things with terrible outcomes always have tremendous learnings. That's another sort of lesson of life, right? So it was great because we learned, and I relearned everything I thought worked because I had done Gudlur. I said, oh no, it's not working here because the context had changed, right? Everything is context, right? That was IPH. That was KG Halli. And let me come to the next one, which is today, post-pandemic. Okay. What does community health mean today? What does community mean today? Right? We are no longer in the happy times of, BR Hills is bliss. You've got a community, right? You look at what I'm facing and you will see this. There's rapid urbanization. I'm looking at Anekal Taluk, by the way. Rapid urbanization, there's migrant labor, there's globalization and its economic effects, there's digitizing. There are these 10-year-olds in Hakipiki colony carrying this thing saying, selfie, madam, nimjote nan selfie takontini. Digitization, okay? There is commercialization of healthcare. Okay, it's always been there. I think it's just worse now. And then in the larger social context, we have moved from something as simple, which was gender had binaries. Now we've got LGBTQs. So what is community anymore? What does it mean? It throws up challenges at the local level, at the national level, at the global level. And I'm not even talking about environment and things like that. The list is endless. We'll be sitting here till night. So I won't continue. So this is what my young colleagues who are in their 20s and myself face when we are going out to the field with 1 billion literates. We decided to work on NCDs. It's kind of safe. We know this thing. Hakipiki is for us a box that it's like a Pandora's box. Every time we open it, something new comes out. Okay, we think we've got it handled and then the alcohol addiction will come. Then we think we've got it handled, then the mental health issues will come. It's only 400 families, but it's what I see when something like VGKK or Accord has not been there for people for 30 years. That is Hakipiki is a colony in crisis. It's a sociological crisis, it's a medical crisis, it's a crisis of all sorts. Okay. So this is a question you're going to have to ask yourself. Who am I? Am I a student? Am I a doctor? Am I a homemaker? Okay, it's not that men don't run homes, but women do a lot more work. Am I a connector? Am I a trainer? Am I a healer? Right? And my entire journey, I've been called many things along the way. I've been called Roopa, then I've been called Dr. Amma, then I've been called Doctor in the Bariya. That's Malayalam. Then I've been called Dr. Saab. Then when I moved to teaching, I became Roopa Auntie. Then I became Roopa Party as my hair grew gray. Now I am Aji. Okay. And I still don't know the answer to this. I'm sorry to say, I don't know the answer to this question. Okay. So I have this young intern from North Karnataka, Sachin. He's from Gadag, just doing his MPH. He came up to me, he's a very energetic young man. He said, ma'am, now yen madbeku. When we go to the field for the first time, now yen kelbeku Jana Jote, what should we ask so that we understand the community? I thought to myself, what do I tell this boy? What on earth do I tell this? It was a clean question coming from a beautiful space. He wanted to know, and he actually thought I had an answer. God bless him, right? But I reflected, as I always do. It was on the tip of my tongue to come out with something quickly. I'd say, you know, you can ask this, this, this. Then I thought, no, this needs some thinking before I answer this boy. Then I told him, or 3 hours later, I said, you know, Kana, when you go into the field, you will notice 2 kinds of things. One is why people are like you. You will notice the commonality, what they have, what you have, what they think, what you think. You will also notice why they are different from you. That will starkly hit you, because you'll say, why are they doing that? Why? They're so strange. That will hit you. So these 2 things come. Pay attention to both. Because the first will tell you about yourself. It will tell you your background, where you come from, and where you have got stuck in your thinking, and why you have got stuck in your thinking. The second part, you need to investigate. You have to ask, why do they do what they do? And I must tell a funny story. When we used to go to the meetings in early days in Bengaluru, we would sit in a circle, you know, to have a meeting. After all, it's a meeting. And the Paniya women often would sit with their backs to the circle. So they'll be looking outside. And I used to think to myself, why are they doing this? Then one day I got the courage and I said, Yake Kempi, why are you doing this thing? And she said, very simple, madam. We chew pan. When we chew the pan and we have to spit, we can't spit into the circle. We have to spit outside. It is such a simple answer, no? But how the mind worked. Why are they doing this? Are they not part of the meeting? Are they not thinking about it? Right? I'm just saying, sometimes answers are there. You just have to have the courage to ask, and ask nicely. Okay. So here we are asking ourselves this question. And so I thought I must give Sachin an answer. But the answer is not in my own words. The answer is, I'm reading a poem, because poetry hits the heart like no prose can. So I'm going to read a book from a book. This book is called The Tower of Healing, and it's by a man called Haven Trevino. He wrote these poems when he was dying of multiple sclerosis. Yeah, each of them is a gem. So this is to my young colleagues who asked, what do we do, ma'am? To build up, dismantle first. To expand, contract first. To attain clarity, allow confusion. To become civilized, first live in the wild. The balance of all things is in their opposites. The truth points in both directions. Thus, the clenched fist holds weakness within, and the open hand offers the power of 1,000 suns. Deny one half yourself and stand precariously on one foot. Because the true healer does not rush to judgment or try to conquer disease. She knows that by simply being available, that's her greatest gift. Not ruled by guilt, she is not out to save the world or tell others how to live. The healer opens the gates of heaven for others for simple reasons, because she likes people and it feels good. As simple as that. Now this looks like the end, but it isn't. There's one more. Okay. There's one more slide. And I could not end this without talking about something which is very important to anybody who works in any profession, but more so in public health. And if you're a woman, even more so. You need to have time to nurture yourself. To take a leaf out of my classmate Johnny's talk, he gave it recently. What you do is an extension of who you are. Okay. So you have to nurture that being within you. You have to have some quiet time. You have to do things that you love to do, whether it's music or dance or painting or whatever. You need to do that, because unless you nurture that being within you, you cannot give your best to the rest of the world. You cannot. Right? So it's a very important part of sanity at one level. So I'm going to end. This is really the end, with quotes from a man who wrote poetry 800 years ago. Okay. Rumi was a mystic. He was a very wise man, not like me. So Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi said 800 years ago, love is the bridge between you and everything. Learn to speak by listening. Dance until you shatter yourself. For you are not a drop in the ocean, but the ocean, the entire ocean in one drop. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please keep it with you because
Okay.
a few questions. People, 5 minutes before we have to close. Thank you very much. Like I thought, it was provoking. It promotes thinking, promotes reflection. It promotes us to think deeper about what we do and why we do. So thank you very much for that.
Lots of people.
One question that came up from online, apart from the compliments, of course, is something very interesting, and I think I'm sure we will have a long answer to this. It's asked by Akshay, who's affiliated with one of the honorary associates in IPH, and also a physician. It's also something that, let's say, spurred a thought in my mind as well. So you had this comment, this thing about depending on what you practice, something else becomes the alternative. Yeah. And that is very interesting. We live in times where we have seen a rejuvenation of Ayurveda, we have seen a rejuvenation of yoga, and etc. But there's one thing that troubles, I think, Akshay and me, and a few others I've seen as well. And I think you must go ahead. A lot of our education, be it masters in public health, PhDs, etc., train us to, in some sense, filter knowledge. They train us to say, okay, this knowledge is good. This has been through some kind of a lens which we use as scholars, whereas this knowledge is not good. And parallel to this, we live also in a society where there is a lot of fake news and social media is a very pervasive way in which it's creating a kind of illusion sometimes as to what is really important about you. So I think the question is, when you also live in times where knowledge and knowledge systems can also be oppressive. Modern medicine has been. But on the other hand, Ayurveda also can be. Traditional medicine practitioners today tell us that Ayurveda pressing over traditional. Similarly, we work in VR hills where many of our colleagues here have strong roots in traditional healers. Yeah? Now, it's not those kind of traditional healers who are getting primacy, but organized knowledge systems, for example, of what you might call alternate, which also gain a lot of stage. So, without rambling too much about this, I think our question is, how can you address this thing of knowledge and knowledge systems? Yes, I agree, modern medicine sometimes can marginalize, but how do you address also our knowledge system that
can also marginalize. And, what are your thoughts about that? And the specific question, second part, that specific question for Akshay, is do you really need to always go into the ancient in order to be a person-centered thinker? Why can't it be done through more modern methods? Why this look on this institution? These are two questions, and please take your time.
Thank you, Prashant. Let me be very careful when I'm answering these questions, because I'll be quartered and guillotined if I don't watch my words. See, a knowledge system is just that. It's a knowledge system, right? It has, as I said, a map of the human body, and it has certain parameters within which it works. Now, very central to all healing is something called trust, right? And trust is rooted in human connection, right? So, which is why the traditional healers of VR Hills will work wonders, which is why when they call the spirits, right? When they call the spirits in Gudalur, the healing happened. She had a normal baby. I thought she would be throwing fits, right? She had a normal baby. They spent the whole night drinking katan chaya and singing back and forth between the men. And I sat there and I said, she needs to go for a cesarean section. But something else operated, right? Now, from a particular point of view, we consider these ad hoc miracles, or we say these are the outsiders. They don't fall within the nice percentile, the lovely things we like to look at. The question always interesting for me is, why does it still work? Right? When economic chaos is reigning, why is it that some families which are resilient come out of it? That is where you learn from as well. So it is important to remember that there are multiple levels operating in the human brain. And when trust operates, in many ways, the mind actually heals the body. Now, this is a tricky one, because we are taught in modern medicine, which is why I said I was blessed to have that experience where I erased all my allopathic training. Only then could I learn Reiki and yoga. Because the minute those thoughts interfered, I could not imbibe this system in its entirety. You have to drop that because it's different. And the beauty is patients know that. So that's why patients don't bother. They choose what they trust, right? So there is not one better than the other. And there's no need to follow anything blindly. Fake news, I fully agree with you, Prashant. It's frightening when you see some of the stuff that comes out. But that's why the individual exploration by the person, right? And it's not always possible, but both the patient and the doctor together, if you can have an open conversation, it helps enormously. Why are you doing what you're doing? Do you really believe this? Right? I mean, there is a lady I'm giving Reiki to for the last 8 months now. She's on chemotherapy, stage 4. Okay. She's living for her 2 girls. I know it. Right? I have no idea what is operating in that mind to keep that body going. I don't know. So in all humility, I think it's important to see the limits of what a system does and go beyond that to understand what something beyond, which we don't understand, which all, and this I come to the ancients. The ancients somehow seem to have figured this out. And I'm not saying it blindly. I'm saying their systems always talk about something which is beyond the physical. If you look at your Saptakosha or Panchakosha of yoga, there is one part where it is so diverse and so like that it is part of the universe. You're solidified, your physical body is solidified. But then beyond that is your Manonmaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, all those things. And then there's one part which is Anandamaya Kosha. Anandamaya Kosha has nothing to do with the body. I don't know whether, see, the thing is, we get caught in these words. We think, is it soul? Is it this? Do we know there is a soul? Is there proof for this? Is there proof for that? I don't want to go into all that. I'm saying in every healing process, right, one needs to ask the question honestly of oneself and the patient, where are we in this? Are we in this journey together? Do we understand it the same way? Right? Because I have seen Kartanaikas die when all the right things happened allopathically. They just died. They just withered away and died. I've seen it happen. Right? So something, and to my young mind then, I thought they'll be thinking some weird cause of the disease, and that has not been fulfilled. But it's enough to kill the person, no? The person just withered away. Right? So that is where the cross-learning is happening all the time. That's where the cross-learning. So the ancients, when you talk about the, I want to tell Akshay, I want to tell Akshay, you don't have to go to the ancients. You really don't. You can do it every day, just looking within yourself, understanding yourself, understanding the limits of medicine, understanding what is evidence. Is it really evidence? Right? I mean, these are huge questions. What do you believe in? It boils down to that. What do you believe in?
Thank you very much for that response. Just one more, due to lack of time, I will take one more question. I agree this is a very nice one because you mentioned about IPH communities in Anandamaya. You mentioned the work in Bengaluru, 5 different Adivasi communities, and you happen to mention because of your familiarity about these where exemplary work has happened, and in fact, many of the people here today in large numbers from Solika community owe their mistake to the exemplary work where it happened.
Absolutely.
But the question is, but there are IPH days, other Adivasi days, other communities across the country. So, is it how realistic is it, and what would be your thoughts about places where this kind of community-oriented work has not happened and possibly will not?
Thank you, Prashant. I think I'm speaking rather negatively, but it will go the way of the American Indians or the Red Indians in the West. You know, when people are not understood from the roots of where they come and what their life, what is the word for it? It's not culture, something beyond culture. They believe in something. Okay, the Hakipikis for me are exemplary in their understanding of freedom. Okay, they are amazing people. When tribes are denotified in the way the British did it, and we continued to do it for so many years in our country without understanding the wealth of what lay there, are lost, I think the world loses out. Because there are things that cut across Adivasi communities, like that oneness that I described, that oneness with nature. Okay, they say, there are tribes who say the sun is my father and the moon is my mother. Modern science says the same thing. We just say it differently. You know, they say there was this big ball, and then from that, the sun came out, this big blast, and then from that, the moon came out, and the molecules of all that are ultimately what went into the ocean, which made us what we are today. We say the same thing, right? The story is the same. It's just that when you say the father, my son is the father, and you think, are they mad? No. It's the way the information has been processed, right? So I would not say to myself, try and save all the cultures. No, I would ask myself, it's exactly what I told Sachin. When I step out, what do I understand? What is there to learn from this? What is there to learn from across Adivasi tribes, right? And even if they're only 7% of the Indian population, they're still part of the Indian population, right? So why are we not sending our children to live and learn from there? Why do we decide to do things a particular way? Is it a mainstream thinking? What is it? So my point is, unless you ask questions, and sometimes very difficult questions, there are no answers to all this. There are really no answers. You have to find answers for yourself. Right? We live in a world where we are still struggling with minorities, with religion and stuff like that. Where are we talking about Adivasis? Right? These are people who understand the world in a way you and I will never understand because we have not lived that life. We will not understand. You can try to learn from it. You will get parts of it, but you will not have that soul which comes from that song and dance. No, it's not there. You can join in the dance, and that's beautiful in itself.
Thank you very much for the oration, and I hope we continue to be talking about the several.
Please.
I pass on the floor.
Thank you. Can I just steal back
What
my
is it,
paper?
ma'am? Your paper. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Dr. Roopa, for sharing your journey, and which was very inspiring, I think, for many of us, many parts of your life. And thank you so much for sharing your experiences and that inspiring discussion on health and wellness, which is, I think, full of relevance for most of us today. So I request Mr. C. Mahadev, the community engagement expert at Institute of Public Health, and president of the Jilla Budakattu Girijana Abhivruddhi Sangha, Chamarajnagara district, Karnataka, to felicitate Dr. Roopa Devadasan. Can I help you with this?
Yeah. Thank you, Sujata. God bless you. Yeah. All done?
Yes. Thank you so much.